Ever wondered what a day in the life of America's most notorious gangster looked like? Forget what you've seen in the movies. We're peeling back the layers to reveal the real Al Capone beyond the machine guns and the headlines. What did this man, who ran a city and a criminal empire, actually do from sunrise to sunset? The answer is more complex and frankly more fascinating than you could ever imagine. Al Capone's day didn't start with a crime syndicate meeting. It started like many of ours with the aroma of strong coffee. This wasn't just any morning ritual. For Capone, it was a moment of quiet control before the chaos of his world descended. He would wake up early, around 6 a.m., in his heavily fortified home on South Prairie Avenue in Chicago. Security was paramount. Even before his first cup, his bodyguards would have already swept the premises, checking for any threats. This wasn't paranoia. It was a necessary precaution for a man with a target on his back. As he sipped his coffee, often with a newspaper in hand, Capone wasn't just catching up on the world news. He was scanning for his own name, for mentions of his operations, and for the latest moves by law enforcement and his rivals. This was his daily intelligence briefing. He was a master of information, understanding that knowledge was just as powerful as a bullet. He'd also use this time to meticulously plan his day, not on a digital calendar, but in his own sharp, strategic mind. Every meeting, every phone call, every decision was mapped out. But here's the surprising part. Capone was also a family man. Before leaving the house, he made it a point to have breakfast with his wife, May, and his son, Sonny. To them, he wasn't Scarface, the feared gangster. He was all the husband and father. He insisted on a semblance of normalcy, shielding his family from the grimy details of his business. He doted on Sonny, ensuring his son had all the luxuries and opportunities he never did. These morning moments reveal a duality in Capone's character, a ruthless crime lord who also craved the simple comforts of family life. This stark contrast is what makes him such an endlessly compelling figure. Once breakfast was over, the businessman emerged. Capone's attire was always impeccable. He believed in looking the part of a successful, legitimate entrepreneur. Dressed in a fine, custom-tailored suit, a silk tie, and a polished fedora, he projected an image of power and respectability. His appearance was a form of psychological warfare. It was designed to command respect, to intimidate, and to blur the lines between his criminal activities and legitimate business ventures. He understood branding long before it became a corporate buzzword. His office was wherever he needed it to be, but his headquarters for much of his reign was the Lexington Hotel in Chicago, which he essentially took over. He and his entourage occupied multiple floors, turning it into a fortress known as Capone's Castle. His mornings were packed with meetings. These weren't shadowy figures in dark alleys. Capone met with lawyers, accountants, politicians, and union leaders. He was the CEO of a massive, multifaceted organization. He managed his bootlegging operations, gambling dens, and prostitution rings with the precision of a modern-day executive. He would review ledgers, delegate tasks to his lieutenants, and make strategic decisions that would ripple throughout Chicago's underworld. He was known for his sharp mind and incredible memory for numbers and details. He didn't take notes. He kept it all in his head. This made it nearly impossible for law enforcement to find a paper trail linking him directly to his crimes. His lieutenants, men like Frank Nitti and Jake Greasy Thumb Guzik, would report on the previous day's earnings and any problems that had arisen. Capone was a demanding boss, expecting absolute loyalty and efficiency. Betrayal was the one sin he would not forgive, and the consequences were famously brutal. But he also knew how to inspire loyalty, often through generosity and a shared sense of purpose. Lunch was often a grand affair. Capone loved food and enjoyed dining at Chicago's finest restaurants. But these meals were rarely just for pleasure. They were working lunches, opportunities to network, to intimidate rivals, and to conduct business in a public setting. By eating out in the open, surrounded by his men, he sent a clear message. He was untouchable. He owned the city. He would hold court, greeting people, shaking hands, and tipping extravagantly. This was all part of his carefully constructed public persona, the generous, charismatic man of the people. It was a performance, and he was the star of the show. What did you think of Capone's morning routine so far? Does it surprise you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you're finding this glimpse into the criminal mind fascinating, make sure to hit that like button. After lunch, Capone's focus often shifted to his public image. He was a master of public relations. He would grant interviews to reporters, carefully crafting his narrative. He famously opened soup kitchens during the Great Depression, feeding thousands of unemployed Chicagoans. Was this genuine altruism? Or was it a cynical, brilliant PR move to win the hearts and minds of the public, positioning himself as a benefactor when the government was failing them? The truth is likely somewhere in between. Capone understood the power of public opinion and worked tirelessly to cultivate a Robin Hood-like image, even as his organization's violence plagued the city. The afternoons might also involve visiting his various businesses, not just the illegal ones. Capone invested his illicit earnings into legitimate enterprises, from laundromats to real estate, as a way to clean his money and build a veneer of legitimacy. He'd show up, check the books, and make his presence known. He wanted everyone from the lowest level employee to the district attorney to know that Al Capone was a fixture of Chicago's economy, both above and below the surface. As evening approached, the nature of his work often changed. The nights were for entertainment and for enforcing his will. Capone was a regular at nightclubs, theaters, and speakeasies, many of which he owned. He loved jazz music and the vibrant nightlife of the Roaring Twenties. Arriving at a club with his entourage, he was treated like royalty. The best table, the best champagne, and the attention of everyone in the room were his by default. These outings were another form of business. It was where deals were made in hushed tones, where he could gauge the city's mood, and where he could be seen enjoying the fruits of his empire. But the night also had a darker side. It was under the cover of darkness that much of the violence and intimidation took place. While Capone rarely got his own hands dirty by this point in his career, he would give the orders. An afternoon meeting's decision could become a nighttime reality. A rival who had crossed a line, a politician who wouldn't cooperate, or an employee who had skimmed profits, their fates were often sealed as Capone enjoyed an opera or a jazz performance. His alibis were always perfect. He was a public figure, seen by hundreds of people at a show, while his enforcers carried out his brutal instructions across the city. This separation between the order and the act was key to his long-running evasion of murder charges. Capone would typically return home late, but his day wasn't over. He'd have a final meeting with his top lieutenants to get a summary of the night's events and earnings. He needed to know that his orders were carried out and that his empire was secure before he could rest. Even at home, he was never truly off duty. The fortress on Prairie Avenue was both his sanctuary and his prison, a constant reminder of the dangerous life he had chosen. So we've seen the calculated CEO, the doting family man, the PR genius, and the ruthless mob boss. Capone was all of these things every single day. His routine was a masterclass in compartmentalization and control. But there was one aspect of his life, one final secret from his daily routine, that would ultimately lead to his downfall. It wasn't a rival gang or a hail of bullets. It was something far more mundane, something hidden in plain sight, that the federal government finally used to bring down the most powerful criminal in America. What was it? You'll have to subscribe and turn on notifications to find out in our next video. Thanks for watching.